Hey everybody, this is Mike Lapon from Symphony X and Mike Lapon's Silent Assassins, and this is SAGAS.
What's going on, everybody? This is Corbin the Serpentine Skipper.
And this is Rand the Berserker Marabou. And this is
Vanilla Coke. No. SAGAS.
Guinness.
I got a vanilla Coke.
I've got a coffee in a Guinness cup.
Nice. That's all, folks. Fuck you all. No.
See better.
So, nice quick one. No. So thank you for tuning in. I just realized that, I mean, this is a pre-record anyway, but I realized that because normally I will Tuesday night in Australia, I'll normally do all the editing and shit and post on YouTube and Buzzsprout to automatically upload at 12 o'clock the Wednesday midnight. But I completely forgot, and I was at work on Wednesday. Like, did I upload? Like, fuck, I didn't. So as soon as I got home, I did the editing. So now it's all on there, even though this is a pre-record. So go enjoy. We talked about Saga. Yeah, that was interesting album. I still need to listen to that not sober. I'll get to that one day. And spawning from that was my first recommendation in fucking months, it felt like. And it's a band I've name dropped tons of times. It's interesting because it's a band you've never listened to personally until now. And this is a band and an album that I held very close to me since I heard it, because it's we'll talk about it in a second, but so we're talking about the debut album by Godspeed, post-rock band Godspeed You Black Emperor, and their album, which is technically pronounced F-sharp, A-sharp, Infinity, released in 1997 for the LP, but 1998 for the CD, so I had two releases. Anyway, as a first-time listener, I am very curious, Mr. Rand the Berserker Marabou, how did you find this album?
Yeah, honestly, I was really like, I wasn't sure what to expect with this album. Just going off the things you've told me, the title, the whole thing. Yeah, man, I was really surprised. And this isn't even anything you could categorize. It's so fucking, like, anybody that doesn't know it, there's 3 tracks, and the last track is a half an hour long. So it's a really interesting listen straight off the bat. You're just like, oh shit, right, okay. Yeah, it's got this like really nice emotive kind of vibe off it the whole way through, even though there's different styles in practically every section of each song. It's like it's more of like a piece of music rather than a select bunch of songs. It's really arty, you know. I really like it. The loose soundscape, because it's like they just layer and layer and layer all this amazing soundscape. And I was expecting it to just be more of that. I didn't expect it to have so much instrumentation in there as well. But I always like Quebecians or Quebec musicians and artists. They're always really cool, interesting characters. So the minute I read that they were from Quebec, I think it was halfway through my listen, I seen that they were from Quebec, and I was like, this makes sense now, because I don't know what it is about them. They're just super. They just have a really interesting scope on all things art in the art world. Yeah. I got to spend some time with a band from there over in Germany one time. We were over playing. And they're just like such interesting characters. This French Canadian kind of vibe, huh?
Oh no, sorry, go. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's really like really cool. Whatever kind of character brings out in them, and they just bring out this beautiful way of approaching the arts, you know. And this is a prime example of that. And I really enjoyed it. You know, with like you told me to sit out in the garden. I'm not in the garden. You told me to sit alone.
Yeah.
I took it one step further and I sat out in the garden. And
just 1 second. Sorry, I'm just taking through. So.
Right.
Don't worry, listeners. I'll edit this part out.
I'll leave it. I was just fixing something.
Yeah. So sorry, you were sitting in the garden.
Yeah, so I said I'd sit in the garden and listen to it, so I'll get into that a bit more later. But yeah, my first impressions, bro, I was really interested. And it became more interesting than I even thought it was gonna be. So happy days.
Yeah. Now this is, and you know what's interesting is there's among the fan base of this band, there's a lot of people that go back and forth of what their magnum opus is between this album and their second album, which is called Lift Your Black Antennas Like a Stairway to Heaven, or something like that. It's something long. And both albums I really love. They're both very similar, very doom like. But going back to this, so yeah, as you said, it's 3 tracks, and all have their own little sections. It's even broken down on Wikipedia. Like the first track, the Dead Flag Blues, and then second part, Slow Moving Trains, the Cowboy, third, the Dead Flag Blues outro. So it all has, kind of like last week's, one song cut into 13. This is kind of like 3 long songs cut into 3 or 4. But I gotta say, this is a podcast. I can be honest. Every time, this is one of my go-to albums when I have a day off work and I just want to get high or drunk. This is my go-to album. I'm just like, I'll be walking in the forest, headphones on, out of my mind, and just put this on, because it's just, when you can feel it through your body, and it's just like the apocalyptic feel, the larger than life feel. And so many times I've just fallen asleep to this album on, like I'll be so immersed and I'll just pass out, and then I'll wake up feeling weird because it's such a doomsy album. I end up feeling like fucked up. But I want to talk about because obviously I think this episode, there's no point doing the devil's advocate. It's like there's 3 tracks, you can't really do much about it. But the first track, Dead Flag Blues, which is 16 minutes and 27 seconds long. And I've, to all the listeners out there, I've listened to this album, I can't even, a countless amount of times, as well as the second album, very good one too. But with this album, every time, without fail, no matter how many times I've heard it, as soon as I get to that intro of the first track with the guy talking, who just happens to be one of the members of the band in his failed movie that he made, it was just like a snippet from that. But the intro was just like this man just talking about the misery around him, the absolute just horror, and like how dead he sounds, like emotionless about the whole thing. It's just like, the cars are on fire. As soon as the intro, my body gets into this shiver waiting for the because no matter how many times I anticipate it, knowing this album back to front, like the back of my hand, I can never. I'm still in this nervous anticipation for the first line, because the way he talks, and it sounds like a guy right next to you. I mean, if you listen to good headphones, it sounds like a guy right next to you, talking to you, telling you this shit. It sounds so intimate. I don't know how he did it, but how normally, obviously tons of bands and artists, they use vocal snippets. It's very common, samples and whatnot. But with this one, it just sounds like the guy's right there, either in your head or next to you, depending on how you listen to it. And I got to say, as far as intros go, narration intro goes, I think that's bar none probably has to be my favorite of all metal. I mean, I know there's fucking millions out there, but that's the way. Yeah, so it's this guy talking about the tragedy around him. It's like some kind of scene, some kind of chaotic scene, and there's just so many parts. There's a part where he's talking about mothers pulling out babies and then only pulling out strands of hair. That's fuck. That's fucked. Can you imagine? And then it's at the end, it's hold my hand, beautiful. These should be your last days. And I'm and then it goes into the actual music. It's just, and then you got this train going with this weird. The second part is this train. It's this spiral sound. Oh man, just how immersive this is. This is one of the only bands, maybe besides Swans, that can do this to me. That makes you feel this this gravitational just feeling. And nothing about this. I mean, except maybe I think it's weird because the outro track, which is 2 minutes long according to this part, the Dead Flag Blues outro, I think almost in a weird way that has kind of like a very vague, like what's it called, like surf rock kind of tone to it. Like it almost sounds like the bad times are over, let's move on. That's what it feels to me. Whenever I listen to the end, I'm like, oh, it's past, because you got the first dreadful narration, and then you got the second part with the loopy train, and then the build up instrumentation, and then I don't know, the last part just eases you kind of out of it in a way. It feels like if you listen to the SpongeBob soundtrack on LSD, that's what it sounds like to me. It's just like damn. It sounds like it sounds like that iconic, but like kind of just like LSD tripped. So yeah, I just wanted to give some focus on the first track before I let the time go, because it's just, I recommend anyone out there, even if you can't be fucked listening to the whole album, I get it's long, or listen to this band ever again, I highly recommend the Dead Flag Blues, just to feel the insane surreal experience.
Yeah, man. When I listened to that track first, right, I was unsure what to expect, and I knew it was going to be like a soundscape kind of vibe, but I thought there'd be a lot more, I don't know, kind of minor notes and keys and stuff used in the songs, in the instrumentation, and obviously, yeah, the kind of voiceover bits do have a feeling of dread, but the music then comes in and it's so beautiful, which threw me for a loop. Like I was like, what? What is this? So, but that cool deep voice, and it's kind of like epic movie kind of vibes at the start, and you say it's from a movie, is it? Yeah, so that kind of makes sense. But then it goes into this like beautiful string section, and which I was not expecting. And then there's like, there's cellos, violins, and then it goes into that surf rock vibe you were chatting about. And I was like, oh man, that's cool. Like with the train, it kind of gives it this like spaghetti kind of Western vibe, which I really love in general. But mixing that with a surf rock bit, and it's just really cool. But then it's really thought provoking at the same time. So that was a really nice introduction to the band. To hear that as their first piece that I've heard, I was like, all right, cool, I'm in. So I instantly said to myself, this is my favorite track, before I heard any of the rest of them. But then as it went on, I was like, oh shit. There's loads of really interesting bits. The second song, East Hastings, the intro of that was again, it was like a voice, but it was like I think it might have been like a sample of someone chatting about, kind of preaching about Jesus and stuff like that. But then it went into this really nice bagpipes, which I love bagpipes. Like I think bagpipes are one of those instruments that are chalk and cheese, or like Marmite, like you either hate them or you love them. I love bagpipes, so this has like a wicked bagpipes bit, and I was like, what the fuck? Where did that come out of? And then it went into this really nice string quartet, and then the band built up, and there was this airy kind of like Sigur Rós kind of vibe as well. And I was so, just every couple of sections on this album, I'm like, wow, man, like it kind of takes like a lot of your favorite elements and just puts them, not even like spreads them out, it like actually makes like a full section of this beautiful style and then moves on. And I really liked how they had like a really dry production on that song, on that piece of that song. It just gave it a really like really natural vibe with all these organic instruments, like. But then they had this really nice guitar picking that matched up with the violins, and I haven't really heard that often, like it's really, really cool. Like usually the strings do like a swooping over the top. These like locked in really tight, which is really nice. But then there was that really cool double time beat. And I was like, oh man, yeah. So then it got like, lots of like pink noise and a bit more noise rock built in. And I was like, oh shit, man, that is so cool. But there was that odd guitar sound kind of loop thing that came in then. And it was really trippy. Kind of emulated the sound of like whales. Something I could think of. I was like, there's all these, it's guitars and guitar tones and loops and stuff, and but it just sounded like whales, man. It's just I was like,
Yeah.
really cool. But yeah, but this is where it was at this point when I had listened to the first track and the half of this track um in the garden, but walking around. And then I said, right, I'm gonna sit down. So I sat down and I listened to this part of the second track onwards, just sitting down, completely immersed. The dog was sitting down, he wasn't running around anymore looking for attention. He was sitting down, the birds are flying over, it was really nice. It was because we're having a really sunny spell here in Ireland, and it's really warm. So you're sitting out at night and you're just cooling down, but it was still kind of warm, still kind of bright, but it was like 11 o'clock at night. So it was like the perfect setting for this song. The sky was almost purple. And like I think the cover of the album's purple as well, so it was shining up at me, and it was just this perfect moment to listen to this piece of music, right? And you talk about being a bit intoxicated or whatever to listen to this, and it really adds to it. And I totally understand what you mean by that, but I was just sitting out in the garden, no intoxication whatsoever, right? But you know me, I can trip balls with meditation and shit anyway, right?
Yeah.
But so I just sat in the moment with this, and it just totally sucked me in, like the first time I listened to Pink Floyd, like it just
Yeah.
totally, just all these trippy sounds. And I swear, I sound crazy, right? But I swear, I was so into it, and I could. There was all these like buzzing sounds and stuff on the track, and I was looking at the birds, and I was putting the sounds onto the animals around me, and these birds flew over my head, right? And I looked up, and I swear, this is how into this piece of music I was. The birds created a H and an I above my head as they flew over, and I was waving. The birds were saying hi. It
Yeah.
sounds like something on fucking LSD or something like. But this music is so trippy that actually does bring out that way of thinking, even if you're sober. It's amazing, like, and yeah, I was just thinking to myself, imagine Corbin tripping balls listening to this now, or whatever, stoned or whatever. Like, it would totally
Yeah.
work. Very cool. So yeah, I just thought I'd I'd uh I'd share that crazy story. Like, people were like, oh no, he's lost it altogether now, that lad. But no, it really is very immersive music, and it really brings you in if you're open to that kind of thing.
Yeah. I completely understand. It's like, what's funny? What's funny? The only time I really trip for the worst is actually not on this album. It's on the second album. Because there's a part on the second album where every time, if I'm high or drunk, every time I get to that part, I have to it gets me scared, because there's a part in the second, I'll send it to you later, but there's a part, I think it's the second track, of the second album, of like this preacher talking, giving a real strong ceremony, and they kind of make it sound demonic in a way, and I'm like, oh fuck this, they get like fucked up. And so besides that part, this album is pretty good. I just get chills and have a good time. I don't normally trip out too bad listening to this, but it's interesting because on Wikipedia it has the instruments and stuff going into this. You have the drums, percussion, violin, guitar, electric guitar, bagpipes, which says only on the CD version. So they're on the LP. Bass guitar, banjo, cello, French horn. Like, these guys are just like, fuck yeah. And what's interesting? This came out in 1997. Just like they were just like, fuck it, balls to the walls on this. And a few interesting things about it. First of all, where does it say it? This is really interesting. So yeah, as I said, the first track begins with an ominous introduction, which originates from an unfinished screenplay by the guitarist. So
Right.
he's just like, fuck it, let's use it. And the other cool thing about it is, once this album came out, it actually inspired the making of 28 Days Later, the movie.
Wow, what?
Just the whole apocalyptic vibe of it.
Wow.
The writer's like, nah, this is what it has to be like. So, I mean, and the weird thing is, like, this band itself, when they started, apparently it was a bunch of word of mouth. Like they'll go up to people like, "Oh, we're a band, come check us out." You know, probably back then it was like cheap as fuck tickets were free. It's like just come chill us. But through that and through their music, they ended up developing a cult following. Because I guess people would tell their friends, and they'll tell their friends like, this band. And that's how they became the post rock legends they are now. Because like the underdogs. Because it's just like making the music they do. And I haven't heard much of the newer albums, but from what I've heard, they keep the same nuance, the same cadence. It's not much different. And what's interesting is I actually got in contact. This is ages ago. I got in contact with the bass guitarist Mario Pezzienti, and when he replied, to, I did my normal spiel. Hey, how's it going? And when he replied to me, I was like, what the fuck? That's sick. And then I asked for an interview, and he said, sorry, we don't do interviews. I'm like, oh, fair enough. Keep it ominous.
Yeah.
And I remember asking questions about the band, and I forgot what he said. This was a long time ago. But yeah, I was able to get in contact with the bassists. Yeah, they're a very secretive band, very low key. They just make the music and just leave. Like, they don't give a fuck. I mean, it just adds to it because it's similar. Like bands like that, Swans, they don't do much interviews either. They just keep to themselves, and they're just like, and it kind of makes people who do that kind of seem like more larger than life. Like, because it's just like, like obviously, and obviously, I'm the biggest example. I'm an interviewer, but it's just like, you want to know, like after talking to the drummer from Cannibal Corpse, it humanized my opinion of them. I was like, oh, he's just a normal dude. But if they were secretive and like didn't do interviews, I would always think like, oh, these guys are murderous serial killers. I can guarantee it. Like, I don't know. And it's just like making this kind of music and then not doing any interviews, not shedding any light or any humanity to yourself. It kind of gives a more of an ominous feel to them. And it's like, oh, these boys, like they make this music and they don't talk about it. So it's crazy. But yeah, the last track is interesting because it's like, yeah, as you said, it's just shy of 30 minutes, 29 minutes. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 parts to it. And yeah, like how it started with a guy just talking, and it's like it sounds like he's at a petrol station. Because at one point someone's like, "Oh, can you hear me?" He's like, "Oh yeah, over there." And it's like so it's a snippet from something, which is actually another reference to the second album, because one of the second track as well, the start of it, it's literally they're at a gas station and it has a person on the PA on the microphone. It's like, whoever has the car, come to and it's looping. But anyway, yeah. So it's very interesting how they can make such a long album with just 3 tracks and make it so immersive. And what's interesting is literally track 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, sorry, part 6 of the last track is literally called Silence, because there's a part that's just silence, and it's actually called Silence. They just named it. And then it has the proper outro. And before I go too much off topic, that reminds me, I used to have the Nevermind album, Nevermind album, and on CD, and I used to play music when I fell asleep on my CD player, and there was a hidden track on Nevermind, but it took like 20 minutes to get to it or something. So I remember the first time I played it, I fell asleep, listening to the album, what I thought was the album. And then 20 minutes later, it's just like, and I was like, it was like 2 a.m. I was like, what the fuck? I got a heart attack. But it kind of reminds me, because I was listening to it, and I'm like, oh, is this it? Is this the rest of the album? Because I'd forgotten, because it's been a long time since I've been sober listening to this. So I was like, is this the rest? And then obviously it wasn't. But yeah, so it's just interesting. All the little nuances, all the little shit, just the history behind the band, history behind, inspiring one of the most famous horror movies. And it's just like zombie movies, horror movies. So yeah, no, just for this to be their first album nonetheless, and for all the secrecy, for all the instruments they added, for all the word of mouth notoriety this album got, it's pretty fucking epic.
Yeah, man, it is. I love that kind of mysterious vibe. I mean, I do love when there's say a musician is like a character, and they interview and you get to know them. I love getting to know a musician on a personal level, even though you've never met them. But on the other hand, like the full 180 version of that I really like as well. I love that mysterious character. There's a musician in Ireland called Damien Rice. I don't know if how far he's traveled, but um he has that kind of vibe where he doesn't like being famous. He doesn't like all that. And he's such an incredible musician. And it makes you want to know more about him because he's so elusive. He's like a fucking unicorn. And it's like, oh, we want to get to know these people. But there's some musicians that actually carry that in their everyday life. I've met some guys over the years and you meet them and they become even more of an enigmatic kind of a mysterious character when you meet them. You're like, what? You're even more perplexed. I love that. It makes me really interested. Like one example is Adam from Hate. When you watch them and they're in all that makeup and they're really like mysterious or whatever we're looking, and then you meet him personally, and he's as mysterious because he only gives you so much. Like he's a really cool guy, but he only gives you so much. So it's like it makes you want to know more about him, and if you were to meet anybody, like let me think of an example. I'll just use myself as an example. Like if you were to meet me at a show, I'd be like all like bubbly talking and chatting and be like, yeah. I go wear everything on my sleeve. So you literally would know straight away what kind of cat I am. But I love that about some guys that I love how they can do that. They live their persona and I don't know, it's really intriguing. I love it, and I like that now that you told me that this was what these boys are like. I like them even more. Because it's a really interesting spin on being a musician that wants to be heard, but not having to get your character or your personality out into the limelight as well. Like it's really, really cool. I think people that can really pull that off though are people that are really mega talented. I don't think you could do that and be average or mediocre. I think you have to have like some absolute bitching chops that people just need to hear your music regardless of how you sell it. you know um but yeah, no, the last track is outrageous, man. See, I didn't know they had put it out there that it's split into all these different parts, which is really cool. But I kind of picked out the parts anyway because there is that really obvious middle gap of silence. And I wrote the word silence down in my notes quite a lot of times, but I didn't know that there was a fucking section called silence. That's genius. I love that. But yeah, like that somber voice at the start of this track as well. Providence is really cool. It has a what I would call an insightful esque type voice. Like there's the voice at the start. It doesn't. He's not really saying anything insightful, but the way the tone, the way it's being said, it does sound like, if you'd let him speak for another little bit, maybe he would have said something insightful. But there's that lovely soundscape stuff again, which fades into another pause. Like it's like a very short pause, but still a pause. There's a thing in songs I love called breaks. It's like a bit where you just stop. It's just for a split second generally, especially in the stuff we play because it's so fast, and you stop and then you kick back in. And that bit of letting the song breathe for just a second is it's so powerful. The empty space, or like in tattoo terms, you call it like the negative space, so but these guys, sometimes when you overdo it, it can take the explosion away, but not with these guys. They know exactly how to marry one end to the other, and give you that time. It's fucking amazing, like really is. There's a lot of influences that I would pick out on this album, some of which would have been inspired from this later on, and some of which they would have been inspired by. But there's one piece of music that goes in pretty soon into this last song or last track. It's very, and so I watch it from afar. This kind of like it starts off with the xylophone playing the notes, and then it's like a riff, and then they play it on the guitars, and it's just got this kind of odd timing, like 3/4 or 4/7 7/4 or something. There's something a bit off about it. There's only like 3 notes, and they're dotting around on each other, but it's really, really cool. Absolutely love it. Love the timing. I could listen to that bit for days. Like, that bit is probably my favorite on the whole thing. I could literally sit there and listen to that bit for fucking days, man. It's just incredibly emotive. Like, it's just really, really cool. The Christian, another bit of like talking, sounds like a Christian prayer or something. I'm not entirely sure, but I really like the Radiohead vibe. Then it goes into it's. So I'm like, right, well, this is what was this 97, this album. So I'm thinking, who inspired who? You know, like, because Radiohead were going around that time too. Like, so, but this bit, it's very like indie folk rock kind of stuff. Like, it's got that eerie vibe with the soundscape stuff again. But then there's an accordion which kind of throws it for a loop. So it's like Radiohead style. I think there's a melody within that is exactly the same as a Radiohead song. So I don't know who whatever got inspired there. But yeah, no, the accordion just makes it unique to them. You know, it's like, it's a really interesting instrument to put on top of this sound. But yeah, there's loads of loops, loads of delay. You know, when it comes to effects and, you know, volume pedals and getting this soundscape built, these guys are probably one of the best I've heard now for a long time. Because you've had us listen to quite a few bands that do this, and it's amazing. Like, it's I kind of phrase tonal guitars. So it's like, then you're not directly playing the instrument as such. You're not trying to play an arpeggio or a chord progression or notes of any kind. You're just using it to build this tonal sound from the guitar, and it's absolutely amazing. I love it. I love using that in songs generally, but a lot of the time I would add a guitar over it, or an instrumentation over it. But when bands feel comfortable and they have this what would you say, this characteristic in their music where they can do this confidently, I have so much respect for that. But just, I could talk for days about this song because it just goes on and on and on. There's so many amazing parts. For a half an hour song, it doesn't feel like half an hour. Like, there's about 3 or 4 minutes of silence. That silence bit, I think, is like 3 or 4 minutes long.
3 minutes 30.
Yeah, I sat there listening to it. I was like, I'm really enjoying this. But it's weird because I don't get to listen to silence generally, because anybody that knows me, I have tinnitus in this ear and I have a constant ring. But because it was in the garden and there was you know, pink noise in the background, you know, or of birds singing and all the stuff, it kind of gave me the illusion of silence. So I got to sit there, listen, because I had my headphones in and there was no noise. It really gave me this feeling of silence. So, you know, thanks guys, I appreciate that. Maybe they can heal tinnitus, I don't know. But yeah, man, there was that build up, then that loop at the end, it's just beautiful atmospheric sounds. I don't know, but you know, the bit right at the very, very end, this is something, because you know the band, you might know. It sounds to me like at the very end that they're recording in like a rehearsal room, and they just said, well, we'll maybe stick a layer of kind of reverb or something over it. Was that them rehearsing? Yeah.
I don't know.
You don't know. It'd be interesting to look into, because that's what it sounds like. It sounds like they just had a few mics in the room mics, just recorded, and they liked the take, because it sounds like a band jamming or rehearsing, but it was like a really good take, you know, like, I don't know, really interesting to throw at the end of the track, you know.
Like, I'm just like wondering, like, you know, I wonder if during that, you know, because right before silence, it's string loop manufactured during downpour, whatever that is. And then the next part is silence, but I'm just wondering, like, right after the song, right before silence, string loop, I wonder if, like, the band members were just like passed out, and then they woke up like 3 minutes later, like, oh shit, and they're like, oh wait, it's all good. We'll just call it silence.
Yeah.
And you know, speaking on breaks, this is definitely completely unrelated, but it made me think about it. There's a hip hop group called Outkast, very famous hip hop group, and on one of their albums, ironically released 2 years after this one, you know, 1999, they had a lot of break moments, but every time there was a break moment, they literally recorded themselves going break, like break, and then the next song will play break. I don't know. I just thought it was a clever use of the break. Literally saying break. I thought it was funny. And like I said, today we don't have to do devil's advocate, so I think, we'll just get the sponsors out of the way, and then you can tell me what we're covering next week.
Sweet.
So you start with your sponsors.
Well, today I would like to speak about my good friends in Ulster Meat Co. It's going to piss Corbin off, but we're going to sort you out soon, bro. Is the Ulster Meat Co. King of the North. This delectable beverage is made from fermented honey, and it's made by two Polish men who are now more Irish than Polish, I believe, with their lovely company here in Convoy in Donegal. They are, as says on the back, made in Ireland with a Polish twist. So it basically is the only mead available in Ireland at the top half of the country. I mean, the other one is available at the bottom half and the top half, but it's only made in the bottom half. So basically, these boys are one of two companies in the country, and it makes them super unique. But not only that, they make a herbal wine, and the herbal wine is now available in stores, and it's amazing as well. So drink responsibly, but when you do drink responsibly, drink Ulster Meat Co. I don't know why I'm doing it. It's like, do it.
It's funny. It's funny. Like as you say that, I have like 4 empty cider bottles. Fucking yeah. No, that's good.
Right.
Do we have a? Is there a time and date for when I'm finally gonna get my fucking bottle?
Yeah, at the end of the month, they said. What's today's date? Let me see. It was the end of. I don't know whether it was the end of May or the end of June. I'll write to them later on. I'm sure we'll see when that's available. But we sampled it. We went down, myself and the Berserkers and our Berserker crew and fam, and we sampled, and it was fucking amazing. It's the best one yet. So you're gonna enjoy it.
Nice, can't wait. So let's keep it nice and simple this week. So I'm going to shout out. Let's shout out today Uncle Ron's Candles.
Ooh.
So Uncle Ron's Candles is a guy run by Ron who makes these very unique candles, as well as wax candles. There's fragrances. There's insect repellent called fuck bugs. Like I said last time, that's pretty funny. No, he's got the whole deal. Very creative guy. He's actually taking a bit of time off at the moment. Well, and sometimes you people, and I can relate. I definitely have a workaholic mentality. Sometimes you forget to give yourself a break, and forget to. He was actually pointing out how he feels like, like having any time off. He feels guilty about, and I understand that completely. Like I get that mentality. So he's taking time off for a bit, but it doesn't mean I can't promote the guy. So if you need candles, go to his website. Uncle Ron's Candles will be up there once it's released, and go get yourself something nice, because he definitely has quality items. So yeah, go check out Uncle Ron's Candles. Link in the description above. Yeah, that's a pretty, I'm assuming, quick episode this week. I don't know. It doesn't have a runtime up here, but I know it would be shorter than normal. Do you have an album ready?
Yes, I do. I've been wanting to talk about this band for a long time, but I keep putting them off. So I think it's time we do it. Arch Enemy, but not the new version of Arch Enemy, the old version. Well, not the original, but the practically original version of Arch Enemy. Rise of the Tyrant, the 2007 monstrous album. I was gonna go for the album Doomsday, which I think I prefer more, but I'm after saying Rise of the Tyrant now, so that's what it is.
I was literally just about to say, there's only 2 right answers for your choice, and you chose one of the 2. So that's good. Although speaking, and I guess this can be a bit of an early thoughts considering we're coming in this week. But interesting point though, Arch Enemy, I think, is one of the only bands I don't even think I can, like, thinking about it now off the top of my head, I don't think I can think of barely anyone, but I know Arch Enemy is probably the only one, maybe besides Black Flag, because I love all their vocalists in Black Flag. They're all, it feels like Black Flag has a unwritten requirement for the lead singers to be psychopaths. But so that's why, they're always awesome. But besides Black Flag, I think Arch Enemy is the only band where they found a singer replacement that literally sounds just like the old singer, and sounds like they really did a good job finding a replacement. And normally, I'm very normally fucking, what's the word, purist when it comes, Black Sabbath only Aussie, Suicide Silence only Mitch. Like, I'm very specific about that. But Arch Enemy is the one time where I remember listening to the new stuff and I was like, damn, like, this sounds just like the original, like, singer. Like, they really chose, pretty much, they had to have found her doppelganger. That's all that explains it. Like, they somehow found her again a second time. So yeah, no. So the only two right choices for this, which is not a problem, but it would have been Doomsday Machine and Rise of the Tyrant. But you chose Rise of the Tyrant. Oh, but Doomsday Machine had the song Nemesis.
You see, this is it. I said at the start, no, I'm gonna go with Doomsday Machine. I'm gonna just do it because I meant to say that, and I originally had Rise of the Tyrant in my head, and then I said no, I'm gonna change it. That's the best one, Doomsday Machine. Right, fuck it, it's done.
I can't believe they started in '96. Fuck,
it's unreal. They had a male vocalist at the start, which was really interesting. Yeah, Black Earth album. Yeah, male vocalist.
Well, that's weird because like, that's like Slipknot. I know they had an original single before Corey in the demo. Yeah. Kill, Eat, Feed, Repeat. In that demo, they had someone else. Oh,
sweet.
And then from there, Slipknot, the original, the self-title came in. Nice. Arch Enemy, a band I'm actually, I had a chance to interview them. I got an email ages ago about Arch Enemy, like, for interviews. And I did actually, I replied. I was like, I gave a time and whatever, but I just didn't get it. But I remember getting the email for it. Yeah. So yeah, no, this is definitely a band I listened to when I was in high school. Sweet. This album and the one you chose just before Rise of the Tyrant.
We talk about both of them, sure.
Yeah, nice. At least we get to talk about Nemesis.
Yeah, man, fucking great track.
Cool. No, that's episode 71, because episode 70 came out today. Well, last week, but today, real time. Let's see. Any other form of business? When's your guys' new album coming out?
Oh, still in process of writing. We are doing all right. We're gonna get back into. We have a new video actually. Probably by the time this video comes out, our new video might be on the release end of things for the recent single. But then there'll be chats of another single. So let's see. It won't be long. Soonish.
Do you still think you made the right decision not immediately going with the guy who we haven't named yet? I don't think.
Yeah. The super cool famous guy. Yeah, I think so, because
you're sounding less and less confident every day.
I always have two albums in my head when I'm writing. Nearly every time I'm writing an album, I have the ideas for another album after. So I believe the next one is gonna be even better, but this next one is gonna be better than the one we just released. So we're always progressing. Always.
Are these two albums, so the one that's coming first, and then the one that's coming out with the man that shall not be named yet, is it gonna be different sounds?
It's probably, the next one is probably going to be our ultimate album of everything that made us who we are, but bigger and better. And this next one that we're doing now is probably our heaviest album to date. Yeah, there's some really interesting stuff. You mentioned French horns earlier. There's a section of French horns, so there's a couple of interesting bits thrown in there, but it'd be good. Be good.
Well, I really hope. I mean, obviously, I haven't heard the new stuff yet, but hopefully, it sounds like that EP you released ages ago.
Yeah,
because
you like that.
I
Nice.
think sound-wise, that's like, as a fan of your music, that's what I look for the most.
Sick.
And I was like, yes, this has the perfect amount of everything. So hopefully,
Yeah.
some of them sound like that.
I'll do my best for you, bro. I will.
Even if you have to make a second EP, you know what? Even if you have to, just keep making EPs that sound like that,
Yeah,
and then
okay.
keep your studio albums or
Yeah,
whatever the fuck you want to make. But make the
Sweet.
EP just demos, EPs, whatever. Just
Sweet.
make them that style. That can be your That can be the second thing. Well, another thing that you're known for the band. You can make albums as whatever, and then you'll become notorious for your EPs, for your folk, whatever. That style EPs, and then fans can be like, "Oh yeah, have you heard the latest folk EP number 3?" And then if they want to go to your albums, they'll get the Motorhead or whatever the fuck you're trying to do.
Yeah.
That one.
I really like that idea, man. Yeah, nice one.
Words to the wise.
Word to the wise.
And let you know that right after I push end on this, I'm going to text Terrence, I'm going to text Mark, and I'm going to be like, just in case Ren doesn't bring it up or he forgets, this is what I want. I'm going to be super demanding about, like, make this happen.
That's fair, bro. That's fair.
Hopefully,
Nice.
hopefully. Well, that was the short, well, maybe not now. Maybe you feel that time, but this was our interesting episode of SAGAS, and we'll be back next week to talk Arch Enemy. So, in the meantime, same time, same place, awesome.